Total War Three Kingdoms. Is it worth a buy? Is it? Let's read the words of the developer. Total War Three Kingdoms is the first in the award-winning series to recreate epic conflict across ancient China, combining a gripping turn-based campaign of empire building and conquest with stunning real-time battles. Three Kingdoms redefines the series in an age of heroes and legends. So we have another Total War game, guys. I've done 27 hours in this, and it's not like most Total War games. This is a bit different. I'll come to that in a minute, but first, it's a PC game, so let's have a look at the graphics. I tested this on a 2080 and a 1070, and I have to say, guys, that it runs fine on both of them. Absolutely fine. I had it both running on Ultra. Frames per second, basically in a battle, 2v2 with all the troops on max, with the little checkbox to put bigger armies on Ultra on a 1070 was given between 30 and 40 frames a second. If you take off two of the armies, so it's 1v1 with just like one big army on another big army, 70 frames a second I was getting on that, and it looks gorgeous as well. On the 2080 it was just running like fine with both, as you would expect. So no problems at all running this. You will be able to run this on a mid-range machine. There's plenty of graphic options as well that you can turn down, even if you are getting a few frame drops as you play. I should point out that if you're watching replays that you've recorded of battles, you will get some frame drops in that. It wasn't noticeable when I was actually playing the game, but when I was watching the replays back for this video, in fact, and you'll see them quite a few times throughout this video, you will notice a few frame drops. These weren't happening in the battles, but they are happening when you actually watch a replay back, so that might drop from say 80 to about 45. Graphically it looks fantastic. The units look great, the world looks great. I love the archers, I love the fire effects in this, it's fantastic. It looks great, it sounds great as well. The voiceovers are really good. You can also have it done in Chinese if you want. The voices are great, the sounds of the battles is great, the shouts on the battlefield is great. It's just, the music's great, the music is fantastic, it's really atmospheric. So again, no problems at all. Now the game, we'll talk a little bit about the real-time battles first, then I'll talk about the campaign and the strategy side of things. So the real-time battles, it's different. There's this has what's called romance mode. Now you don't have to use it, you can play the game with normal mode, so it'll be like a regular Total War game, and the big difference is that it's how the generals behave. In romance mode, the generals are like these big figures, these like gods. You know, they're not like big in like height. they're just like feared like gods. They are really, really insanely powerful. To give you an example, one general can charge into an entire unit of say swordsmen and kill a lot of them. I mean, they are brutal people, and you can have 3 of them on your side in a battle. The enemy also has them as well, so this is the problem. But that means you can duel. So as a battle starts, or any time you want, you can assign your general to duel another general. Now they might refuse, or they might not be the kind of general that does duels. So if that happens, you can still attack them anyway, and that's the great thing. But if you do go into a duel, they will just charge into the middle of the battlefield and just get into each other and start fighting while battles raging around them, and people won't intervene with that. And it looks fantastic. You also get little abilities that you can use during the battle as well, debuffs, buffs, and stuff like hamstring moves and stuff like that. So as you level up, you get more and more of those things with your general. So it's like a totally new way of playing, and I have to say, guys, I absolutely love the new romance mode. I had this huge battle where I was outnumbered 2 to 1, and I had about 1,800 men, but the enemy had massive reinforcements, and I held my own. I did extremely well. I wiped out most of his units, but I lost every single one that I had. All I had left was my 3 generals towards the end. One of my generals, my strategist, he left, he ran away, and it just left me me actual faction leader and my main dueling guy, who was really powerful. And they were nearly dead, and they were fighting the remnants. We'd killed all their generals, and we were just fighting the remnants of their archers and spearmen, and we eventually just won. And it was kind of edgier seat stuff, I couldn't afford to lose the battle because of where it was on the map. But I won it, and I won it because of my generals being so tough. The battles are great. You have the usual rock, paper, scissors stuff. You've got your main four types of units. You've got your cavalry, your mounted. You've got your projectile ones, archers, crossbows, trebuchets, things like that. You've got your spearmen. You've got lots of different types of spear infantry and sword infantry, and there's again lots of different types of them. And as you go through and unlock more things, more buildings, you can get more powerful units, more expensive of course, with a higher upkeep. But it's the rock, paper, scissors. Cavalry will wreck archers and swordsmen, but spearmen will wreck cavalry, swordsmen will wreck spearmen, and archers will wreck anybody who hasn't got a shield. So that's the kind of way that it goes in this. It's a bit odd because there's no way I would have thought that a swordman would wreck a spearman. I would have thought the other way around, but you got to have it, or it would be just a ridiculous game. As usual with Total War, there's a shit ton of formations that you can choose. The AI, it's alright. I mean, it's not massively amazing, but it still goes for the flank. But sometimes it'll sit there while you pepper it with arrows, and it kind of thinks, shit, this isn't a good idea, and then it'll charge you. So it's not stupid, but it's not like Einstein at the same time. It's kind of what I would expect, and it's good enough, to be honest with you. It's good enough. You can also turn the difficulty up as well if it's a bit too easy for you. Now, it's all well and good having really good real-time combat across different maps with sieges and castles and all of this stuff, but what's the actual strategy like, the map? Well, it has a bit of a steep learning curve. There's a lot more in this than there has been in recent Total War games. It took me, I'm not going to lie to you, it took me about 5 hours just to get the bare grips with it, because the tutorial confused me. What I did was I switched the game off and I spent about 2 hours watching YouTube videos of people who already knew how to play, and that's how I learned, and I found that to be easily the best way. So be prepared for a bit of a learning curve on this. And there's still stuff that I'm coming across and I'm thinking, oh shit, what's that? And I have to read the tooltips for. And that's after 27 hours. So it is quite a deep game, but it is a very, very fun game, especially on the strategy map. The strategy map is fantastic and the UI is brilliant. It is really, really intuitive and dead easy to get the information that you want pretty much within a click or two. Everything you want to know about every faction that you have come in contact with or can see is available there at a click. You can see who likes you, why they like you, who hates you and why they hate you. You can see who's neutral with you and why they're neutral. You can negotiate with pretty much anybody. You'll get a good idea of whether or not they're going to go with the negotiation. You can sweeten the deal with stuff, and it's just so easy to use once you actually learn where everything is. One of the best times I had in this game was I was in the middle of the map pretty much where I'd started, and I wanted to push northeast, but there was a big faction there who'd vassaled a few of the warlords, and they were bigger than me, but there was a guy to my west who'd pretty much done the same. And they were both friends with each other, which was a huge problem for me. So I started whispering in the ear of the guy to the west and saying, you know that guy to the north, he's a bit of a prick. He doesn't really like you. I heard him talking about you. And he's like, really? The bastard. And then the next guy did the same. I says, that's me again. I'm just telling you about that guy to the north. He's not to be trusted. Don't trust him. You shouldn't trust him. He's not a good man. He's not a good man. And he was like, oh, thanks for that. Oh, bastard, eh? Then they declared war on each other. It was great. Now you can do this. You can use this influence. That you collect this influence over time, and you can cash it in. And you can't do this every turn. You can do it, a couple of times every 4 or 5 or 5 or 6 turns. But if you use it correctly, you can change the whole way the world is shaped, and it's fantastic. Unfortunately for me, this totally backfired when they went to war, because I made a non-aggression pact with the guy from the west just to really show that I liked him, because my idea was to eventually ally with him and move north. But the guy to the north was way bigger than I thought and started crushing the guy to the west. So I was in a bit of a situation. I wasn't big enough to take out the north, so I had to actually turn on the guy that was my best friend. And I took his capital and killed him. And it was brutal. It was brutal. But these are the things that make the campaign so damn good. Things change all the time, and you find yourself in some situations where you've got to think, bloody hell, what shall I do here? And you've got to be careful of your family as well and your generals. You don't want to piss them off by making the wrong decision, or they'll be knifing you in the back as well. This game is brutal, guys. You have to really be careful on the strategy side of things. And again, running your whole empire, there's a lot to do in there. It's a whole game on its own, to be honest. Just the strategy in running your empire. You've got to set up administrators for your cities and stuff, and that'll increase the trade that's coming in. Luckily, this doesn't all happen straight away. It happens over time, over quite a long time. As you level up, you unlock more and more seats of power, and you have to put people in them seats as well. You have to raise new generals, raise new armies, and you've got to make sure that they get along. You don't want two generals that hate each other. I actually did that in a panic when I had to raise an army quickly because my lands were being attacked and my main forces were away because my land was so big. They were way at the other side, so I quickly, hastily, stupidly hired a general that no one liked, and it kind of set a bit of a rot into my army. So you have to be careful of stuff. You can also kit out all your generals with weapons and horses and little trinket things that all these affect their stats, and that makes them more powerful, which is again another whole dimension. It seems like every part of the game has a lot of content for each little bit, and the amount of content that you get in this game is staggering, absolutely staggering. The level of detail and the level of depth with every aspect of this game is what sets it above all the other Total War games for me. I think this is the best Total War game that's ever been released, and I know a lot of people won't agree with that, but that's just my opinion. I absolutely love it. I think the romance mode just swings it for me, and the way that they've implemented the whole UI on the strategy map, it's just fantastic. If you're new to Total War, this is a one to come in at because it's really, really good. But buyer beware, there is a learning curve, and it might not be for everybody. So there you go, guys. Total War 3 Kingdoms is definitely worth a buy.